Game 5 tonight. The Minnesota Timberwolves are still 4.5-point favorites. Derek Lively has been upgraded to questionable. And yesterday, Bobby, you decided to do a Kyrie closer project.
Yeah, because we had talked about this. He had been 14-0 in closeout games. So obviously what that means is that doesn't mean he's never lost a deciding playoff game. It just means that they've been down 3-1 and they lose. That wasn't his opportunity to close the game out. Or if there's been an opportunity to close the game out for his team, maybe he was injured and he missed that game or whatever else. And when they lost, he's not tied to that record. So in closeout games, he was previously 14-0 and lost the game the other night to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And so I went and looked because you had brought it up, like, how responsible was he, though? Is that just he's kind of fluky been 14-0, or is he doing something way different in these games that he hasn't done previously in the playoffs and other sort of situations? So before Tuesday night, so I'm not going to include the Tuesday night statistics because he was bad across the board and it brings down his closeout number. So I'm just trying to show what did it look like heading into Tuesday night in terms of how he performs in closeout games versus how he performs in playoff games. And it's stunning as Ryan throws the stats up there, throws the stat graphic up there. It's stunning how identical essentially his numbers are in the playoffs versus closeout games. In 14 closeout games versus 75 other playoff games that he's played.
Look at that, Choppy. You got to be proud of that. All those numbers and those graphs, that breakdown, that's like an RJ Choppy. That gets you as excited as a We Are Marshall or a Titanic disaster movie.
A Titanic disaster movie.
So, Kyrie in closeout games versus other playoff games.
Plane crashes are too real, Sean. Okay, we're going on one here in July. It's just too real. I'm not going on a ship.
A Titanic or a submarine boat mission.
Exactly 23.1 points per game in both situations.
23?
Exactly 23.1 points per game in closeout games versus other playoff games.
Yeah.
And if you look at, what a 3-point shooting. In closeout games, he averages 2.4 made threes. In other playoff games, it's 2.4 made threes. In closeout games, he takes 5.9 threes. In other playoff games, it's 5.9 threes. It's the same numbers almost across the board. If anything, maybe slightly higher in other playoff games. Like he is a much better free throw shooter in non-closeout games.
In non-closeout,
his free throw shooting percentage in closeout games is way below his career average. Actually, he's 81% in closeout games.
Wow,
he's near 90% in other playoff games. But otherwise, rebounds 3.8 in closeout games, 3.7 in other games. Assists 4.6 in closeouts, 5 in others. So now the other night he was below every single statistical category he's typically been in closeout games. He made fewer shots while taking the same amount. He made fewer threes. He had more turnovers, fewer assists. Everything was down. So his closeout numbers are actually now below his career playoff numbers.
And look, none of this is to say that Kyrie's not clutch or a closer or a baller. Like, I want the ball in his hands in the fourth quarter right there along with Luka. I just thought this was Kendrick Perkins actually got me thinking kind of about this in an indirect way.
All right.
I know that's making Mike Bassick sick listening to that.
Triangles into circles.
When he said plus minus was an overrated stat, I was like, okay, and I heard the Kyrie closeout one. I was thinking, is that an overrated stat? How much is attributed to Kyrie just elevating his game? And Bobby just showed the numbers. He hasn't elevated his game, although we know he's the man.
Plus minus is overrated game in an individual game to game. If you go and you look at it from a career standpoint, it does give you a better look. Because like in any game, you could be on the floor. Like if let's just say you're a player and you're on the floor.
I mean, Derek Lively over the course of this playoff run, his plus minus being way above anybody. That's not fluky. He's playing really well. Right. And the team plays better.
But that's also you're looking at it.
Right. It's not game to game. It's over the stretch. Yes.
But if you look at like in any one game, if you're on the floor with Luka, your plus minus generally is going to be higher than if you're the player who comes into the game when Luka sits. Right, you know what I mean? Like so that's kind of why it's fluky. It's not as great of a stat as people may think.
Spittle says air will be fixed Tuesday. Major issue due to the storms. We have bigger units coming to cool things off until then. We're gonna get bigger units. All right, can y'all hear this on the radio?
These things are massive.
Bring a Jason Love unit in here
because
that's a good reference.
If we can keep that one going the way Bobby just adjusted it, this could be okay. Otherwise, Tuesday, that's not going to work. Maybe I'll have to bring my own AC people in here, like the chairs. catch heat for that too.
No, we won't be catching heat. We'll be catching a breeze.
That's right. If we can get that one working,
then
like
we're set.
Like the Bobby one, we're set.
We need both.
Because that one, or we'll just take Peyton's. What did you say back there?
I said no free shout-outs.
No free shout-outs.
No free shout-outs.
The balls of Peyton say that. The boss listening. How about that?
That was a show reference. That was we referenced that before.
We'll have to swap this one with the one that's cooling off Ryan right there.
So do you?
Ryan's too skinny to have an air conditioner like that next to him anyway.
Ryan's got one of those Canadian club jackets on, or whatever the hell they're called.
Yeah, I mean, like, Peyton's asking for a jacket
Goose.
back there. So I mean, clearly he doesn't need that. We need to take that out of there. He's not able to focus. Now, we got the closeout numbers. Do you want the crunch time numbers?
Yes.
Because you've said you do still want the ball in Kyrie's hands. So after this made me curious. I went to go look up. I was like, how have they done in crunch time in playoff
This
games?
is going to be very interesting because this is going to clutch performance. Crunch time is far more perception than reality with almost every player. Oh, Derek Jeter's a great clutch performer. Well, he's exactly the same as he is in the regular season. Like, his numbers across the board are like pretty standard.
But that would be
It's good.
a big time performer because typically people tend to take a step down.
But that's always been my thought, is that people don't raise their game, they just stay the same, and everybody else drops off because the moment's too big for them.
So if we were to set the parameters of this as over the course of their careers, playoff games, you're inside the last 2 minutes of either the fourth quarter or overtime, and the game is within 3 points in either direction. So you're either up 3, trailing by 3, but no more than that.
Yeah.
If you were to take that as the standard, Luka for his career in those situations is 7 for 13. He's above 50%.
Good.
He's 3 for 5 from beyond the arc. Kyrie in those moments is 5 for 17 in his career, including 3 for 8 from 3.
Oh,
if you use that same
pretty big one.
yes, that's exactly
huge one.
right.
Yeah.
The perception of that just masks everything.
An absolutely huge one. But that also means he's 2 for 9 from the field inside of the 3-point line.
Wow.
Late in games and playoffs.
Interesting.
But if you take it to just the 2023-2024 regular season, Kyrie has actually been a much better late game performer in those situations than Luka has. So this season alone, Kyrie's 9 for 12 in the regular season, not including the playoffs, but he was 9 for 12 this season and 3 for 4 from 3 in those moments. And Luka was 4 for 9. And including, what was funny to me about this was,
and interesting,
9 of Luka's out of Luka's 9 shots in these moments, 8 of them were threes. So he's like putting 3 balls up. Like, that's his MO, apparently. Is late in the game, he wants the 3.
Y'all think of Luka as like a dead-eye shooter at this point?
No.
Okay, so Deadeye is like Steph.
Okay,
No, yeah.
not Steph.
No, I think
lethal.
I think he's a.
What word would you use to describe his 3-point shooting?
A steadier Tim Hardaway.
Oh my God, that's
what?
really insulting.
No.
Really
It's actually
that's jumbo shrimp.
it's actually
You can't use that in the same
because
sentence.
to me he is one of these ones who, if he makes one, I feel like he's going to make 3 more in a row. Like, and when he misses one, I feel like he's going to miss. And over time, it averages out to be over his career.
Too harsh.
He's not been a good 3-point shooter over the course of his career for the most part. This year I think this was a career high for him this year. Let me look it up.
Is he not at, like, what? I would, my perception is that he's borderline elite.
So he was 38% this year. For his career, he is a 34% 3-point shooter.
Yeah, granted, when he gets the ball, and to me, when he's got the ball like he had at the end of game 2, any kind of step back, I expect him to make that in a big spot.
And in fact, his 3-point shooting for his career in the playoffs is pretty much the same. It's 35.1%.